got invited to a Corvette event in Ankeny, Iowa. Carl Chevrolet puts on an event every year, and it's a Corvette-only event. And I thought I'd celebrate the 50th year of my car, my 66, by taking the car to his event. And while I was at the event, we had several different events we did. And one of the events was a car show at the end of the day, and I ended up winning best in class for the old 66. Against 73 other Corvettes. But then what was real surprise is I won best of show with the 66 for its 50th anniversary. Had some tall competition. I had Lingenfelders, I had Corvette factory cars, a lot of C7s, a lot of C6s. And basically everybody liked the old 66. But that's kind of my theme of my detailing seminar today. I've had, while I was up there, I had dozens of people walk up to me and say, you know, I brought a brand new 66, and seeing your car reminds me of my car. I forgot how good they looked when they was new. So I got to thinking about it afterwards, and I thought, people was comparing my car to when they bought it new. And that's kind of the theme of my detailing seminar today, because when I was a kid, I used to go around and look at the cars that I own now. When I was a kid, me and my buddies was all car nuts. So we went out and we wore out the car lots. The guys wouldn't even come up out of their chairs and talk to us anymore. They'd just sit in the office. We'd be buzzing around the cars. And today I remember the way they looked when they was new. So when I detail, what I try to do is I try to detail the car to make it look like when it was new. And the best piece of advice I can give you on that is take each individual component and try to restore it. That's the thing I like about this club, though. Everybody in this club is about restoring cars to what they look like when they was new. And that's my favorite thing about this club. The first thing that I run onto when I go around and I look at cars in these shows is a lot of these cars, you know, you had Biscaynes, you had Impalas, you had Super Sports. Well, the Impalas and Super Sports is what you see a lot of today. A lot of those cars had stainless steel on them, they had chrome. And most people, they don't bother restoring the stainless steel. The stainless steel is scratched, it's smudged. So today, the first thing I want to talk about is trying to restore the stainless steel. Now, I looked at cars in the Odessa show of similar to my cars last week. None of them addressed their stainless steel at all. So what you have to do is, according to how bad your stainless steel is scratched, if your stainless steel has scratches in it, you'll have to go to a sandpaper. And then once you go to your sandpaper, I don't recommend going over 3,000. Now, 3M makes a real good Trizac paper. It's foam, it's flexible, and it's easy to use on your stainless steel. But before you ever touch your stainless steel, if you don't take it off your car, there's a thing called frog tape, and it's the best tape I've ever seen to use on your car to protect the paint. You want to use at least one application of it over your stainless steel. And if you're doing anything besides sandpaper, if you're doing sandpaper or wheel, I recommend you go 2 layers over your paint. Okay, your first layer that you use over your paint on your stainless steel, 3,000. You might have to go as far as 2,000. I don't recommend 2,000, but if you have to, you have to. Your next step is 5,000. The 5,000, 3M makes a real nice Trizac paper. You can get it at O'Reilly Auto Parts, and it's your next step after your 3,000. The trouble is, when you go through all these steps, you got to go to the next step. You can't skip one. So your next step is your wheel, and this is the buffer used on the wheel. Then you go to your medium buff, then you go to your fine buff polishing. So after you go to that, you can go up to your wool buff, and when you're taking your wool buff, I use one of these 3. this is probably my go-to, but if you got brake lines or if you got metal, this works really well. Semichrome works really well on some of the stainless steels too. But overall, this Blue Magic, blue polished cream works the best on everything. Now you take a little bit of this blue polish and you put it on your stainless steel. And what I recommend is I take and I rub it 20 times, just like this. And you want to, with this step, you want to put as much pressure as you can on it. Okay, then your next step, when you got your wheel, if you're trying to cut, you want to go against the grain, just like this. And when you want to polish, you go with the grain, just like this when you want to polish it out. Now you'll have to do this. It isn't a one-step deal. It takes time to do it. So you got to go through each step. Then after you're done with this wheel, after you got your surface ready off this, you go to your medium and you go back with your polishing cream and you go to your medium step and then you're trying to polish. And this stuff doesn't cost a whole lot of money. You can go to Harbor Freight and get just about any of this stuff. This kit right here is 20 bucks at Harbor Freight. Along with this that goes on your drill, this piece right here. And it makes it a whole lot easier than trying to hand polish. Okay, when you get done with this, what I recommend, then when you finally go work by hand, you take it 20 times by hand. Okay, you'll get black on your rag. When you want to quit is when you quit getting black off on your rag. You'll have a final finish. See, I'm getting a little bit more black and I'm on my second time, my third time. You want to go 20 times till you quit getting the black. Oops, I'll pass this around. Okay, on your paint is almost the same process, only you got to look at your paint and you got to figure out where your paint's at. I did Kurt's car. His paint wasn't bad, but it had old wax on it. So what we did, the first thing we did, we went in and stripped the wax. If you got scratches, deep scratches, I recommend this swirl legs. And when you put it on your pad, you put it on in like a target. And you try to work it into the pad where you don't have any pad that isn't cutting. And once you get that done, you'll have to take another pad. Never use your same pad for another application. You use a different pad, and this is my go-to compound. This will get rid of swirl marks. So you this will take you down to a new coat of paint. You get rid of your swirl marks. Okay. In order to clean your pad, after you used it, what you want to do, you take your 5-gallon bucket of water, you put some car washing soap in it, and you douse your pad down until it's clean. Then you take and hose it off. Let it dry, and the next day you can use it again. What I like to do is use a toothbrush, and after it's dry, you get it really clean with the toothbrush. Any foreign stuff that's still in there will come out with a rotary, the toothbrush mainly. Okay, and your finals.
You use your wife's toothbrush?
No, yours. This is an aggressive. After you get done with your sandpaper, this is your first step after your sandpaper. You got to go to aggressive, and you want to try to use your compound along with this. And if you can't get the scratches or swirl marks out, you got to go back to this. This you have to really keep cleaned out because it can only cut so much. It'll fill up pretty fast. These won't fill up so bad, but you want to keep these moving. If you let them set too long, it'll start burning the paint. The paint will heat up. So this is your final step here. This is your polishing pad. So we're going to do a small demo on. Another thing is to cut your time down. All of this can be done by hand, but if you really want to cut your time down, this is a 74-24 quarter cable orbital buffer. You can, and it adjusts, you can go down from 1 to 6. And when you go up to 6, it really gets aggressive. Now for polishing, you don't want to go over 3.5 or 4, but for cutting, with these cutting pads, you can go up to 6. Now this is $129 new, but this comes new with a 6-inch pad, and the edges are flexible. I went back to a 5-inch pad, and the reason I went to a 5-inch pad is because when you go into the contours of your car, this 5-inch pad will collapse into the contours, and it won't dig in. Because if you have a 6-inch, it'll dig into your contours. Okay, we're going to do a little demo on this car here. I hope it's still the same. This car's got some probably hand painted paint on it, so what we're going to do, we're going to start out, we're going to use a little compound on it. You really want to shake your compound for about 5 minutes before you ever start, because this stuff's real easy to set up. It gets dry inside the bottle, so you want to make sure it's set up. So when you're putting your compound on, just spin it like this and make a target on it. Okay, what you want to do is you want to make sure you got your compound on here evenly. And you start out with 1. Okay, I didn't do the whole thing, but I'm just going to basically show you what's going on here. Okay, these rags, the best place to buy these microfiber towels, Costco. They come in a pack of 36, I think it is, and they end up being about 40 cents a piece. Okay, one side is fused, which is this side. The other side is defused. Okay, the fused side's good for windows, but it's not really good for paint, especially after you got it polished, because it'll leave swirl marks in it.
You want to define fused and defused for me?
Okay, the fused, they haven't pulled these little fibers apart. They're still in one part. You can see on here, if you can see real close, they're still apart in one part. The other side, they've defused them, and they've, see how soft they are? Okay, what that does, that absorbs your paint. So what you do, you just divide it in 4s, and you start out with your clean side. You wipe your clean side. Once you get your clean side wiped, okay, this is stage 1 paint. The reason I can tell this is stage 1, the color's on here. If it's stage 2, you wouldn't have a color on here because you got a clear coat. And that's basically all stage 2 is color, and then covered over with clear coat. So this is a stage 1 paint. So if you're working with the stage 1 paint, you don't want to sand it very much. You don't want to cut it very much, because you'll get down into the primer real easy. Okay, this is step 1. This is clean. Here's step 2, polish. Okay, and here's step 3. At O'Reilly's, you can buy these Viking towels. You probably can't see it from where you're looking. These Viking towels are about twice as soft and twice as absorbent as this towel. So I use this Viking towel as my last for the polish. And when you get your final polish on here, this towel will polish it. It'll even take dust off. But anyway, I don't know if you can see the difference. Here's one side, and we'll turn this around. I haven't been working it that long. you see a difference on this side?
You, yeah.
Can you get that in out there?
Yeah. I tell you, another thing I want to share with you today is we all got old cars. A lot of the cars we haven't replaced the rubber or the weather stripping on them. And the best stuff I've ever found to replace the rubber and the weather strip to turn it almost back to new is Silglide. We buy it at Napa. Basically like using toothpaste. You spread it on a toothbrush, take it down the middle of your weather strip, and you pull a strip down, and then you go back and you just brush it like you would brushing your teeth. You can leave it on there for an hour, or you can leave it on overnight. The next day you can come back and you just wipe it down a little bit. And I've got rubber on my 66 Corvette that's been on there since it was new. It's 50 years old. Starting to crack. I put this on it. Now you can't see the cracks in it.
What's it
That's
called?
it. Silglide.
How you
So
spell
glide
it?
by Napa.
S-I-L-G-O-I.
Yes, S-I-L-G-L-Y-D-E. But it's the best stuff I've ever seen to restore that. In the wintertime, you know, sometimes it'll stick, and this completely eliminates it. And I've seen this actually rub through paint. With this Silglide, it doesn't rub through. It lubricates it so well. Okay, the next step, after you get your car, you've got it polished out, you're driving to the show or wherever you're driving to, you might have drove several miles, you've been around diesel trucks. I hate the diesel trucks for the fact that they throw out diesel, and in the diesel hot sulfur, the diesel trucks has got 25 to 1 compression. They're throwing out hot sulfur, and guess where it lands? Right here on your paint. So you get to the car show, and guess what? You're trying to spray detailer on your car.
Don't use paper towel?
No, the paper towels, stay away from them. Okay, you use your fuse side on your detailer, and what I like to do is I like to spray my, I like to spray it just like this, and then I like to spray it and get it on there and get a good coat on it, get a good coat on my towel. And that's where we come to the clay bar. I never used to use clay bar, but what had happened is I'd go to these shows, spray it with detailer, wipe it down with a soft rag, get home, and all my swirl marks was back in there that I had to take out with these pads. So I found out what was going on. Finally, I figured it out. The diesel was getting on there. When I got to the show, I was just wiping the diesel in and swirling it, plus all the road grime. So what I started doing, when I finally got home one time, I thought, you know, I'm going to use this clay bar and see if it really works. Well, I took the clay bar, and you spray the clay bar, you got to get it really wet. Spray your paint, and you rub your paint down like this. All you got to do is rub it over. It's just like Play-Doh when you was a kid. Can you see the red on the clay bar? Okay, it's taking all the dirt out of it. And that's basically what you're doing. You're taking the dirt off. So then what you do, you go back, and I try to make sure it's wet. And I try to keep it wet, keep my towel wet. Then I wipe it off. When I get it wiped off, I use this to polish it.
You keep your towel how wet? Just damp?
Yeah, just damp so it doesn't re-scratch the surface. But this clay bar works wonders.
What spray are you using?
Spray, just your favorite spray, your favorite detailer. This here, yeah. What it is, it's a lubricant for the clay bar, but the main thing about it is you want to keep the clay bar wet, and you don't want to use it out in the sun either. If you're at a car show, you're out in the sun, you're kind of defeating your purpose because this will dry before you can get it done. So you're best to use it in the shade after you get there. If you can find a place to get in the shade, or when you get back home, you know, use your clay bar on it.
How long does that clay bar last? Or how much?
You can use it over and over again. I've used this for months. And it's not that expensive. You can get it at any auto parts store. The main thing is just to keep turning it. When you get it
Okay.
dirty on one side, you can spray it again. The dirt, you can actually take the dirt and scrub it off with your thumb and spray it again, and it'll more or less clean itself up, and then you just keep turning it like that and clean it out. Then when you store it, you want to store it in an airtight container. What I usually do is I'll spray my container, get it wet, and then you put your clay bar in there and you spray it and get it wet, and then you snap the lid on. And there's a lot of other things I could talk about, but this is all the time I want to take up for your day.